On this week's episode of the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast, I had the honor of interviewing Liz Rohr, nurse practitioner. Liz is a family nurse practitioner, educator, wife, mom, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur. Liz is the founder of Liz Rohr NP, where she creates the products she wished she had when starting out as a nurse practitioner. Her business is growing, and she's bringing on employees while creating a happy place to work. Liz's love of entrepreneurship and energy is contagious. I know you're going to love this episode. Welcome to the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Cooper Gillingham. For over 25 years, I've strived to use my nurse credentials to find work that fit my lifestyle. Whether it was raising my 4 children and 3 fur babies, traveling the world, or moving to Mexico and living on the Caribbean Sea. Sometimes I succeeded and sometimes I failed, but I always learned from the experience. Now, I want to help you by sharing what worked and what didn't work. There are so many opportunities out there for nurses today. The Stay at Home Nurse Podcast will inspire and equip you to have a nursing career that is meaningful and supports your lifestyle. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast. Today we have a special guest with us, Liz Rohr. Liz is a nurse practitioner and she also has her own business. Hi, Liz. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm excited to have you. Let's get started by, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, what you do as a nurse, where you live, just all those little things like that.
Sure. So I'm a nurse practitioner. I've been a nurse since 2009, and I became an NP in 2015. And I live in Boston, Massachusetts, or just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. And I work in a federally qualified health center setting. And in the beginning of 2019, I started thinking about starting a business, cutting back on my clinical hours and starting a medical educational business. And towards the end of 2019, I formally launched my company, which is Liz Rohr NP. And I really was about like half time doing clinical stuff and then half time doing the business. And then in 2020, I really cut back on my clinical stuff and I really doubled down on the business.
Awesome. So I want to dive in a little deeper into what really inspired you to start your own business. So a lot of people think about it, but then to actually go ahead and do it, that's a big leap. Tell us more about that.
Totally. So I was like the kind of kid who always thought I was going to be in healthcare, and I didn't know what nurse practitioners did. So I thought I was going to be a doctor. My mom is a nurse. And so I do that like bring your daughter to work day thing. And so I got exposed to all of it. I became a nurse and I thought that I wanted to be an NP at the beginning, but then I was like, I don't have what it takes. That's way too much responsibility. That's way too scary. And so I started in nursing and I did that for several years until I got like really stuck. And I felt I was like job hopping and I was like, oh, wait, like I think I'm really unhappy because of the setting that I'm working in. So I actually ended up moving to California from Boston. And I got there and I was like, oh, it's actually not my job. It's that I actually still want to be a nurse practitioner. I still want to be a provider. And I thought about like physician versus nurse practitioner. And I ultimately decided on nurse practitioner. But anyway, like the path that led me here is I've always been in education. Like I've always loved, like I basically like took pathophysiology and the next semester became the tutor. Like I just am obsessed with education. So and teaching and learning. And so I became a nurse practitioner and it was really, really hard. And about 3 years in, I finally felt like I got the hang of it. And I also was almost burnt out. Like I almost left the profession. I was so unhappy. And I decided to take some time off. Part of it was like situational job related, but then the other part of it was I wasn't really like completely fulfilled. And that's why I took some time off. I took about 3 months off of my clinical job and I switched clinics, but then I also had some like reflection time of like, what do I actually want to do? And I really reconnected with that. I really want to be in education. I really want to teach. And so I applied to teaching positions. I was like, oh, maybe I'll do half-time clinical stuff and half-time something else. So I'll apply to associate faculty positions. I'm not quite ready to go back for my doctorate to like teach formally, like as a tenured professor. And then I was like, you know what? I want to teach more people and I want to do it right now. So I was like, I can totally just bring this online. And you know what? I'm just going to make the thing that I wish I had as a brand new nurse practitioner. I felt like I learned a great deal in school, but there's so much on the job learning, and there are medical education resources that I utilized, but it was like never exactly what I wanted it to be. And so I was like, you know what? The other thing about it was like when I was a new grad nurse practitioner, it was like I'd had this list of like all the things I wanted to learn about and read about at the end of the day, but my brain was so physically full, like saturated, painful, that I literally could not do any more learning at the end of the day. All I could do was what was in front of me. And so I had this long list of stuff that I wanted to read about. And I started this company being like, you know what? I'm going to take that list. I'm going to learn about all the things. I'm going to report back. I was going to like share all the things that I could. And so I started a YouTube channel. And from there, I was like, you know what, I'll do one-on-one mentoring. I'll make some courses. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I did some business training as well. I'd been following some business owners at the time, online business owners, and followed their kind of like free content, marketing content. And I looked at it and I signed up for this program. And I was like, you know what, like fingers crossed, like, let me just make back my investment that I've made in this business training and this legal investment that I've made. I invested about $7,000. And I was like, please just let me like make this back. And my husband was like, that would make me happy. That would be great. You know? And then it like blew up. It's worked out really, really phenomenally. And I also like felt like, just to normalize for people thinking about business, like at the time I was like, all I want to do is teach. Like, I'm so scared to start a business. I don't think I can do this. I don't know if I have what it takes. Again, same story of becoming a nurse and a nurse practitioner, but I just was like, okay, I'll just do the teaching. I'll start, and then somebody else can take over the business stuff. And then I just figured it out. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. It's so much fun. So that was kind of like my trajectory of like, I'm so unhappy that I just can't do it anymore. And like here, and then just full transparency also. I mean, I think the other decision-making was like, my income has a cap as a nurse practitioner, as an associate faculty member, like that combination. And I have some stuff in my personal life that I was trying to take care of financially speaking. And I was like, it's going to be a lot easier if this works out than it is to be, trying to make those pieces fit together in that other way.
Okay. There is so much that we can unpack with this. I love it. I love it. One thing that I'm noticing, I'm spending a lot of time on Clubhouse and I'm on Instagram, and I've interviewed several nurse practitioners. And the one thing I keep hearing over and over about is the burnout, and it's not what they thought it was going to be, and how they're not getting to do what they really feel like they want to do. So I seem to see that across the board with nurse practitioners. Is it just the people that I'm seeing, or is this something that you're seeing a lot of people saying?
It's really hard to say. I mean, I think that there's a lot, especially in the last year, there's a lot of burnout. There seems to be a lot more. And this is one of the topics I'm really passionate about in general. Like when I do my nurse practitioner teaching, is this onboarding. I think my personal perspective as it relates to being a nurse practitioner, I think it's similar for nursing as well. But I think with nursing, there's a little bit more support in some ways. I guess it really depends on the job. But what I felt like with the nurse practitioner transition is I had the foundations, but it was really kind of up to me to advocate for myself to get the support that I needed. There isn't really like a structured way of like, hey, you get 3 months of orientation. Here's how, like, this is like, there's nothing standardized between each place. So it was like, I kind of had to advocate for myself of like, can I meet with a mentor weekly to discuss cases and get more comfortable? Can I have a slowly ramped up schedule? Can I have more like cohort, like group connection with other peers? Like that wasn't given to me. I had to ask for all of those things. And so it's a combination of like, that's not provided. And we kind of had to just be creative and ask for that ourselves and have the self-confidence and self-awareness to ask for those things. But I think there's also another combination of, depending on the setting that you work. So I work in a federally qualified health center setting. So a lot of patients who don't have insurance or under-resourced, like there's a pressure there because of the payment system of it's paid per patient. It's not about how complex the patients are. It's just numbers. It's a numbers game because that's how insurance works in that setting. So I think it's like so I think that those things I see a lot of in terms of the themes of burnout. I feel like the entrepreneurial, I feel like I hear about that a lot. And I think part of me wonders if there's that like kind of quote unquote bug in those people who are doing it anyway. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I knew back in my bachelor's program that I wanted to do clinical and something else. Was it to be public health? Was it to teach? Was it to do something else? But I always knew I wanted to do something. So it's really hard to say, but I do see a lot of burnout, and I do see a lot of people feeling like they're not making enough money for how much they work. And so they're looking for a quote unquote side hustle.
Yeah. And that's really interesting what you said about, was there always something there? I think maybe, and I'm not sure, but maybe we think that, okay, as a nurse practitioner, like some of the doctors have their own practice. So it's almost like a little bit entrepreneurial.
Mm-hmm.
And you think you're going to have more control, like an entrepreneur. Like in entrepreneurial, you have all the control in the world, but you have all the risk of the world. Like all the decisions you make are going to decide whether your business fails or succeeds. Like there's no
Epic
boss.
amounts of risk.
Yes. You can't blame it on your boss. You can't blame it on your manager. You can't blame it on your coworkers, because it's you. It's all on you. And it's something good and something bad. Because if you feel like you're a good worker and you research and you do what you need to do, and you know that you know what people need and you know how to deliver it to them, then you erase all of the just, I don't even know what to call it, but all the red tape maybe that you have to go through to try to do what you know you need to do. When you work for yourself, you just do it.
Yeah, well, I think that that's the pull that a lot of that I'm intuiting that is the pull that people have, is that they feel. I think that's the major complaint I have about primary care in the US is, and that's because that's all I know. I don't know practice outside, because I have a number of people outside of the US in my like audience. So I know that there are nurse practitioners outside the country. I can only speak to the US, but the US, my main concern is like that there is this crunch of like more and more being asked and little control and agency, and quite honestly, dysfunctional workplaces. I mean, real talk, like I am currently operating a business and I endeavor to make it a really well functioning, happy place to work. But like working with nurse practitioners across the country in my online communities and like the ones I work with one-on-one, it's like, it seems like it's the same story over and over again. So, but yeah, I definitely hear this kind of like helplessness and lack of control, and like wanting to have more freedom and control over income and schedule, and yeah, like a lot more sense of agency. I think that that's the major thing that I like. Burnout is such a huge topic and I could go on forever. I think that there's like a huge like control and agency, overworking, under recognition, and then some really core self-care, boundary related personal stuff. I think that that's like the main formula. I think you just hit the nerd on. Yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head with that. It's a combination of all of those things. And again, we could talk about nurse burnout, nurse practitioner burnout forever, but let's move on to entrepreneurship, because I mean, I think we all know the problems. We all know what the issues are, but a lot of people don't know that this is an option. So many things that you said really resonated with me. One is the funny thing is I just recorded a solo episode that will actually go out after your episode. So it's to everybody, it's going to be kind of weird, but I talked about all of these things that you and I are talking about now. And so it just, because it's over and over again, we have a cap on what we can make, no matter how good we are, no matter how much education we get, no matter what we do. Our employers are always going to cap how much we could make. But as an entrepreneur, there's no cap. There's no limit on how much you can make. It's only limited by what you decide you want to do. And that's a whole nother episode. But I should probably do an episode on that. But so I love what you said about that. I love what you said about you created what you wish you had. That's exactly what I did. And that's what I hear over and over again. Yes.
That if you want it, somebody else probably wants it too.
Yes. And I think, so honestly, the keys to my success so far have been very specific, cleared niche. Like I've chosen I serve nurse practitioners in primary care, primarily in the United States, also in Canada, New Zealand, Australia, but like that is my main clientele, specifically caring for adults. I also talk about family, but I don't like super love pediatrics. It's not my favorite topic. So I'm a family nurse practitioner, but I prefer working with adults. Not that I don't love kids. It's just the medicine is more up my alley, but hyper niche, and understanding very clearly my ideal customer avatar, very clearly understanding the desire, the need, the mindset, the underlying beliefs that people have. And it's based on my own experience. And I think that's why I have so much insight. I mean, I'm also like a voracious studier and learner of like the people that I serve too. So it's like an ongoing like market research related thing as well. But yeah, I mean, I think it's like, for me, business, like you can make a business out of anything. If there is a ideal customer who has a desire or a need or a pain point, you just serve that. Like, how do we serve that? What are you best at? How do you want to feel? What excites you? What energizes you? And how can you match that up with a demand? I feel like it's so intimidating to get into business, but like now that I'm on the other side and I've just trusted myself enough to go for it, it's like I could create 7 businesses. I could just keep making businesses. This is so much fun.
I 100% agree. In fact, this year we've gone from one business and, we've always heard like, you shouldn't start a second business until the first one is really running well. So we brought on a project manager to get our first business, like running like clockwork. And now like, because there's so many other businesses that I want to start. So now we're starting 2 more businesses. And it's
God.
It's like, I'm going to be a serial entrepreneur because I love starting businesses. I love creating. I love finding a need that nobody is serving.
Yes.
That the people and what the need is, and the avatar. I mean, I could write 1,000 notes on everything you said because it's so true. And it's so much about what I say. We're both talking the same language because we both have successful businesses and we both have the same vision and reason. You talked about niching down. Did the same thing, and understanding your avatar so you know what they need. Yes. And you also knew your strengths. You love, don't take this the wrong way, but you love being a nerd.
Oh, no, I totally own that. I'm a professional nerd.
Yes. And own it and go with it and make money off of it. So you're like, okay, I love researching all these topics. It was the same thing when I created my book. It was like, okay, I'm not necessarily that I loved doing it, but it was like, somebody has to do this. Somebody has to research every one of these topics and let everybody else know. So now I made it easier for everybody else. You've made it easier for those who don't want to do all the research and don't enjoy reading it. You made it so much easier for them because you're going to take it all and give it to them in a nice little package with a little bow on it and say, here it is. Here's what you need to know.
And like, there's so many, and like, oh my God, I could go on forever. I love business. I could talk for like 8 hours. But really, like, it's so cool. And like, it really is. Cause I think it brings to mind marketing. Like, I'm obsessed with marketing. I love marketing. And people are like, oh, marketing is slimy. I feel weird. I feel pushy. And you're like, I'm just like, no, like, here's what it is. This is so beautiful. There's a problem, there's a solution, and you're communicating with your person. I see your pain. Here's the thing that you wanted, and it's amazing, right? Like, how
absolutely
special.
Both of us are great, glowing.
I feel amazing about selling.
I wish people could see us because we're both glowing. Because it's like, if you have this perfect project, and that's my business partner, Abhi, he's the one who like taught me this because I thought selling was sleazy. And he's like, how can people buy do you think your book is good? And I'm like, yes. Will it help people? Yes. They've told me it helped them. I get letters all the time. Look at all my emails that I get from people saying that it helped me. He goes, okay, I'm looking at your website. How do I buy your book? And I'm like, well, go to this one page way back here. He's like, so he goes, I just spent 20 minutes and I couldn't find it. And I'm a web designer. So how are you? And I'm like, okay. He's like, it's not sleazy. If you have something that will help people, you are doing them a disservice by not marketing it correctly so they can find it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Totally. And I think so many people think of it as pushy, and they're also very attached. Like, that's one of the conversations I'm having a lot with other entrepreneurial kind of like friends that I have, where it's like, they're attached to the outcome and they want to help everybody. And in fact, you just have to be completely detached and fully acknowledge this is not for everybody. What I make is only for the person I made it for. And so when you put it out there, they will self-select and be like, oh, I do need that. It's never pushy. It never has to be pushy. No. And if it feels pushy, then you need to check in with yourself. And what are you thinking about? Right? Like, why is this pushy? If it's not amazing, then make it amazing. If it's amazing, then give it to the right person.
And don't sell it to somebody who doesn't need it. Like, honestly, like, I've had people who say, hey, can you call me? I'm thinking about getting your product. And I'd talk on, I'm like, you don't need it. That's not what you need. This isn't going to help you. You want something different. I'm not going to sell you something just to sell it. I want the right person to get it who needs it. I think that's why it's not sleazy and why it's so much fun. It's really fun to do. That's one of the things that you said.
It is.
You said, quote, it's so much fun being an entrepreneur. So
it is so much fun.
Tell me why you say that. I want to expound on that. Let's go there.
Well, I am a professional nerd. And so like, the professional development, like business learning is endless. Like, in the way that medicine is endless learning, so is business. And like, I I've done a lot of business coaching so far, and there's different schools of thought as it relates to business. There's like more tactical stuff. There's more mindset stuff. The mindset coaching that I participated in, there's a couple different models, but one of the exercises we did was called life purpose. And basically what I want to make in the world, my life purpose is creating heaven on earth. Like, I just want to, like, not in a religious way, but in like if you can imagine the most beautiful thing to ever exist in the world, like that is what pulls me forward. And so in terms of, and then the other thing that I really love is strengths assessment. I don't know if you've done the Clifton strengths assessment before, but for me, my number one is futuristic, and then learner, and then restorative is also in the top 5. And so that's like very future oriented thinking. You get to just like create a bunch of stuff. You learn about a bunch of stuff. And then it's a problem solving orientation. So like that is just a perfect fit for my skill set, and it's super energizing. So in terms of that, like heaven on earth purpose, it's kind of like what I've distilled is what drives me is like, I'm just trying to make things amazing and beautiful in the world. So like, and if I'm a problem oriented person, there's so many opportunities, right? So I think that that's the main combination is like, I'm really in my strengths, and those things are super energizing and fun. I think the biggest challenge for me is that business is not only those things, but it's my job to figure out how to be in a CEO role and double down on the things that I'm good at, and also give away the things that I'm not the best at. I'm a control freak, so I have a hard time with that. But I think that is probably the formula of why it works so well, because it's a really good fit for my personality.
Yes. And you just said so much right there. Coaching is something I 100% believe in, and masterminds and just being around people. When I first started my business, and I would tell people, I had some people that were more entrepreneurial and grew up in entrepreneurial families. Like, that is great. This is going to be great. But then I grew up, and most of the people, 90% of the people that I knew grew up in families where you just worked. You didn't start a business, you worked for somebody else. And they're like, that's crazy. Who's going to buy your stuff? And why would you do that? I'm like, well, I'm going to market it. Well, how do you market it? And I loved learning about the marketing. I loved learning about the systems and processes. I loved learning how to do it, how to create a business, how to do all that. And I was like, this is fun. It's so much fun to learn this.
Fun.
You talked about the technical versus the mindset coaching. Why don't you go into that a little bit? I think our listeners would be interested to know that it's not, there's different things you need to learn. It's not all just technical.
100%. So in my journey, I started with some online business trainings, and I was like, here's the foundations of online business and foundations of marketing and a bunch of tech things and how to build my website. I did a lot of training, and then I did copywriting skills. And so I was learning how to write in a business way that is very captivating. And I'm not great, but I'm like not crappy either. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm doing okay for myself. And then the next part, I was in this community that was associated with that business training. And it was like the conversations that were coming up was like, what are the next steps here? And it was like mindset. The number one thing is mindset. And I was like, okay, sure. Like, I guess everyone hires the coach. So I guess that's what I'll do next, because I was looking for directions. I was like, tell me what to do and I will follow those directions. Because I'm also very data oriented, where it's like, I'm an evidence-based, which I feel like comes with nursing and being a nurse practitioner, is like, I want to do what works. I'm not just going to do something because. And so I'm learning from other people and data and all that. But so I started with a coach because I didn't know what else to do and I was so scared. So I joined a group coaching mastermind. And it was with somebody, and I don't know, she's an ontological coach, I think is her title. And it's a specific type of like mindset coaching. But that was invaluable because it was strategic as well as mindset. But it was like her personal, Kat Wood is my personal coach, and she's full in her private practice. But if you can get on her wait list, she's amazing. She's amazing. I still work with her now, but in a private one-on-one way. But being around, so we talked about different strategies, but like without the underlying mindset, and she believes this too, is like initially the hard part in business is learning the stuff, but the next level of what I constantly do every single day going forward is getting out of my own way and getting out of my own head. It's all my own BS constantly. So yeah, I think it just depends on the paradigm and who you're working with. I think it depends on what school of coaching, but and I think I would recommend caution, because there's different there are different types of coaches and there's different ways of doing it. And it's just important to kind of vet the person that you're going to work with. But yeah, I think the mindset coaching that I work with is just all of the other stuff that comes up.
And you don't think about that,
like constantly. I mean, I could talk forever about coaching too.
Mindset is one of those things that you don't think you have a problem with it, but you see the symptoms of it, and you have to be looking for those symptoms. So when you've when you're researching and researching and researching, but you're never like, you love research. That's what you told me. You're a nerd and you embrace it, but you also act on what you're doing. And one of the symptoms of having a mindset issue is when you keep researching, but you never act, you never take action on what you're doing. And it's because you're afraid. You're afraid of success. You're afraid of failure, but you have some type of a mindset issue.
Yeah. Like, what do you, and like, that was so like novel to me when I started doing coaching. I was like, what even is this? I don't know. I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do next, whatever. But it was like, what are the underlying beliefs that are at play here? And it's like, it's a practiced muscle that I can see now. And I also can see it better. I've been able to see it better, like you said, in terms of the group mastermind, like social space of like seeing yourself in somebody else and having so much more compassion for them than at least for me, I have so much more compassion for the stuff that they're going through. And I'm a little bit hard on myself. And it's like, oh, we're the same. I can grow from that. Like I can have compassion for her. I see it for what it is. And so it's like, oh, okay. But it's all those beliefs. It's like, like, what are your beliefs about money? You know, do you feel deserving of earning money, or what does it mean to you to ask for money and receive money from somebody? Like it's once you start, it's like, it just keeps going and going. I mean,
it does. And you think that you're over it. Like I thought, okay, I've had this amount of success and I got over it. I got over my mindset issues. And then when you go to that next level, they all come back again. And I thought, I was over this.
Yes. Yeah. And it's forever. And I think one of the things that's been so beautiful for me is like learning from experienced entrepreneurs who are like several years and levels ahead of me, being like, this never goes away. Like newsflash, there's no arrival. This is a journey. Absolutely. You will get through it. And then the same stuff / different stuff will still keep coming up, and you just keep going and going. And then you just have to be cool with that and be brave.
And the best coaches have coaches because it's constant. You constantly are going through this. So like you should always, like you said, you need to be cautious with coaches. You need to know what their philosophy is, what they teach. It's always best to come from a recommendation, but also what do you need at that time?
Yeah.
I have a coach right now that, and it's a mindset coach who I heard about 5 years ago, but I would have not been the right person for him to coach 5 years ago. The person I am now, I am.
Yes.
So you have, even not just going because somebody told you that, oh, this person helped me. If you're not having the same struggle, you might need a different person.
Yes.
So knowing what are you going through right now? Like I knew to get to the next level and create these other businesses, I was developing mindset issues and I recognized the signs. So I went and found a coach who is mindset. That's what he does. Is mindset.
Yeah. I mean, I'm constantly working on my fear, like every single day, every single level. It's like, it's super fun. And there's a background of fear. And like, I have to just work on like radical self-trust. Like I have what it takes to make this happen. I have what it takes to meet the revenue goals, to hire the team, to supervise the team, to lead the team, to grow the business. I have what it takes. And I just have to keep going back to that because it can be, if you're not getting support, it's paralyzing.
And mantras help with that, but also somebody else. Like I feel like I'm so blessed that I have a business partner that's also my life partner. So Abby, who you kind of saw walk past earlier, he is like every time I have a mindset issue, I go to him and I'm like, oh, I can't do this. And he's like, yes, you can. Did you think that before? And, and he walks me through it. So it's nice having somebody on the couch next to you at night when you start to get those fears, like, I can't do this.
Yes.
And, not everybody has that, but you can join a mastermind, you can get a coach. You have to find that support system to get to the level that you're at. So there's so much that I can unpack. One other thing I wanted to say real quick was you had mentioned heaven on earth. That's like your mission and your purpose in life. And for years I've been saying my purpose in life is to help others to reach their goals and dreams. And so it's kind of like we have that same thing. Like we know everything that I do, every business I create, whatever I do, that's the focus. So, and yours is heaven on earth. And I love that. It gives you guidance and it helps you to know where you're going.
And also gets out of my own way. Cause it's like, what are you after here? What's like, you're getting really granular here. So like, let's zoom out, remember what's the purpose here. And also like one thing that occurs to me with that is like something that's come up recently as well is that the pain will push until vision pulls. And so it's like this kind of constant struggle between like, this is like being in my clinical job only is really painful. So I want to leave, but like vision is the thing that keeps me pulling forward, and also dealing with the current fear that I have. Like, how do I like kind of like constantly overcome it? Like having that grounded vision and purpose is so, so important, I find.
Absolutely. In fact, that's one of the things we're doing is a webinar soon just to help people because you can have that pain point that's pushing you out of a job. But if it's pushing you out of a job into another job that's just as bad, and that's what a lot of people find, they keep thinking the answer is something else, but they're never looking at what they want. And until you know where you're going, you're leaving this place, but you're going to the next place, which is just the same. And then you're going to the next place. So you have to find out, okay, before I leave, I need to know where I want to go. What do I want that? Is it another job? What does that job look like? What does the employer that I want to look for, that I want to work for, look like? Or what kind of a business do I want to create? Right. And does that business meet my lifestyle? And can I do what I want to do?
Totally.
We didn't talk all this time, and we haven't talked about exactly what do you do with your business? How do you make money? Yeah. And let's start there, and then let's go into 2020 and the pandemic and what that did for your business. But let's start off with answering the question, like, how do you make money in your business?
So I thought I was going to do half client work and half online courses, but it turns out that the courses really took off. And the one-on-one client work was a little bit too much emotionally for me. I thought I could work with 5 clients at a time, and really like 1 or 2 is actually the max, because there's so much involved with the strategy and the daily maintenance of the business. Plus the fact that I'm a highly sensitive person, and I have to be really careful of my energy management and my boundaries and my emotions. So I have a lab interpretation crash course for new nurse practitioners in primary care. So when they graduate, they have to like automatically interpret labs. And there's some we talk about in school, but not really like enough to really fully feel confident. So that's my main course. I also have a diabetes medication course, as well as a quick reference binder, digital NP binder of quick reference cheat sheets for people to print out and keep at their desk. Those are the engines of my business. Actually, the lab crash course is like the main engine, followed by the digital NP binder. I'm working on some other offerings, which I don't want to talk about too much right now because it's like not ready. And I only want to talk about it until it's like ready, but I have some other things I'm working on, but that is the engine of my business. It's a $400 course. And I joke that it is a little tricycle that carries all the weight of everything, but it's amazing. It's an amazing product, and it's doing really well. So yeah.
So have you been able to replace your full-time income?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm guessing that you're surpassing it by
yes. It's shocking. It's going shockingly well. Like, I'm just surprised every single day. I'm like, really? This is so cool. I mean, so I think the one naive thing that I went into business with is that, like, you don't get to keep all the money. You have to pay taxes. If you really want to do, depending on the type of business that you want, I have a very sprawling empire that I'm working on. That takes a lot of people. And you have to pay them. And then you have to pay for a bunch of stuff. So anyway, I don't get to keep all the money of the revenue, but yeah, it's doing way better than I expected.
Well, that's actually a really good point to talk about. So how big is your business? Is it just you? Are you a solopreneur? Do you have people? Tell us about that. Who do you have working with you?
So I waited way too long to hire people, honestly. And I think that's like a problem for especially like women entrepreneurs, but statistically speaking, but yeah, so it's myself, and I have an assistant who works 20 hours a week, and we're working on transitioning to full-time employment, W-2 status, 40 hours a week. And I also am hiring a marketing person in a contracted position, but my goal is to have 3 employees this year. And then I'm also hiring a second nurse practitioner who just started in a contracted status, and then she will be in it makes me nervous talking about it. I'm like, oh my God, am I really going to do that? But yes, those are the 3 people I'm going to hire. And then I also have various contractors that I've worked with. But my core team are those 3 people. And I'm hoping to hire more people, more NPs, as well as some more marketing staff later this year. It's like really scary to say all that, but it's going to happen. It'll be fine. It'll be totally fine.
It is going to be fine. And it's awesome. And, I liked what you talked about before. I wrote this down too. You talked about making it like you wanted to create a happy place to work. So you took what you didn't find and there was a problem, and you want to make a place where other nurse practitioners and other people in general can work and be happy. And I love that.
Delightful. I want a delightful place of employment. Yeah. Because I just feel like, what is the point of creating something if it's not going to be amazing? Like, again, going back to the heaven on earth perfect, like maybe I'm like too intense or something. But like, I feel like that's one of our company values is like making things epic, like ambition with purpose is like, we're making things amazing. So like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be able to afford like 5 months of paid maternity leave like Google does. right now, but like maybe someday.
And, and it's not all about the money. It's about knowing that you're going to work and, hiring people who love to serve your clients.
Yes.
Like that was one of the things that I learned was you have to hire people who want to serve your clients and they're going to do it anyway, no matter how much they're paid.
Yes.
And then when you do that, your company makes more money and therefore you can pay them more. So it's kind of like, it's just kind of like this, you have to learn the principles of make your people happy. And it's not all about the money. Sometimes it's about flexibility in their work hours or where they can work from. There's so many other things that you can give them. Like, I agree. I want to be like the person who can afford to give everybody, lots of money and paid vacations and all this stuff. But I go back to you're creating heaven on earth in your business. And I go back to I'm helping my employees to fulfill their dreams. It's all about helping them to reach their goals and dreams. A lot of people I hire are like retired case managers that don't want to stop working. They just don't want to work like they were before.
Yes.
So I'm helping them fulfill their goal and dream by letting them teach a class a couple times a year, or a couple times a month or a couple times, once a week, whatever they want to do. So we can create anything we want in our business.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's what's so special and is such a value of mine of freedom in running a business. There's just the potential is limitless. I think the biggest obstacle is there, like, to be real, like there are a lot of obstacles to people starting a business, right? There's the pragmatic realities that people are in, financial, like personal responsibility, all of that stuff. But like, once you get into that, like once you're in it and you have the resources to start, like the potential is really limitless. It's really like you're limited mainly by, well, I don't want to give a blanket statement because there are definitely limitations, like societal limitations, but yeah, my main, like the mindset is also a huge barrier. So as long as you are okay with that, and people think, oh, I'd love to win the lottery. That would be amazing to have all this money. And it's like, really? Like, do you want to think about that though? Like, let's think about like I think there's just a lot to work through of like, are you really open to having, a multi-million-dollar business or whatever,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, it almost gets to the point though, as your business grows, where you have so many ideas and so many opportunities and people are coming to you saying, we would like this and we like that. It's almost like you have to like put the brakes on and focus on, okay, what do we do? What is our lane? And if anything, you have so much opportunity and you have to decide like, how big do we want this company to get and how fast do we want it to get there so that we don't create a monster that where we're overworked again and stressed out and have that same burnout that we had before. So it's kind of like a balancing act of all the possibilities and you just want to take them all and do it all, but you have to know when to say no. So we're getting close to the time when I know you have another appointment, but I want to talk about 2020, the pandemic. Like what did that do for your business? How did it change? What happened?
Oh my gosh. It's really surreal. It's really surreal because the pandemic started, they shut down Massachusetts in March and I injured my back the same week. Like I had saddle anesthesia, radiculopathy. Like it was severe. It was like a severe back injury. And I was home with my daughter, who's now 3.5, but at the time was 2. And I had this business. I didn't have any employees. I didn't have any contractors. I was still a solopreneur. And I had a $15,000 launch in February. And then March happened. And I was like, oh, it was just bananas. It was bananas. It was like, I can't believe I made it through. But like, I just was so grateful to have, I don't know. It's like hard to describe. I mean, I think that I was really, so I have my main offering. I view every level of my business as being an offering. So even our marketing is a free offering. It is a free offering inside of our business. So we do weekly videos on YouTube on clinical topics and role transition topics, various educational topics. And so I just kind of kept chugging. I kept going. I had already made this lab interpretation course. I did a launch and then I closed it and I supported my students. And then I just tried my best to hire an assistant. And then I also was in a mastermind at group coaching at the time. And I think just through combination of the coaching and continuous learning and I'm just really tenacious, I think. I just kept going and I just kept I was like, I'm committed to consistent marketing and consistency is like it takes a lot of energy for me to be consistent. So I just kept with it and I just kept going and I kept going and I kept opening the course again because I was like, you know what, more people need this. I'll just open it up again. I'll do a launch. And it just went well. Like it's shocking because I think that like one of the beautiful things about medical education is that that's never going to go away, and Yeah, I was just really fortunate. I was really, really fortunate. And I also was really fortunate that like the pandemic, like people got really used to Zoom. And so like my students that I was supporting online through my online courses knew how to use Zoom. I wasn't like teaching people how to use Zoom. You know what I mean? It was
Yes,
like,
absolutely. Yes.
yeah.
That was one of our big things also, is like
Yeah.
before we would spend so much time with tech support and customer support, helping them to use, and now they all know how to use it. They're pros.
Yeah. But it was just, I mean, it's like, it's just surreal because like there was so much emotional trauma. And I just was so fortunate because the business kept going. And yeah, I mean, it just, I don't know if it would have been different if we did that in 2019 versus 2020, but I almost wonder if there was more focus on the stuff that I have offered online because people were more at home. I don't know. But it was the first full year in business and it was amazing. It was like whiplash amazing.
And every nurse that I'm talking to that has a business said that 2020 was one of the best years for them.
Yeah.
And it just amazes me how even during a pandemic, like we are able, if you create something really, I think it's, I remember hearing before that like, that good marketing will just make a bad product fail faster, or a good product, come to light faster. And I think that the pandemic kind of did that for a lot of businesses. The pandemic was that sink or swim. If you have a great product and a great service and you provide great value, those businesses seem to have really taken off and done really well. And the ones that couldn't pivot and didn't know what exactly their niche was and who their market was are the ones that seemed like they didn't do as well during the pandemic, or maybe aren't even around anymore. One final thought that I want to say is that, when I look at the statistics of businesses that last more than a year and businesses that last 5 years and businesses that are run by women, the further out you get, the fewer and fewer of these businesses are run by women. And it's very encouraging to me because I have talked to so many incredible women, and Liz, you are one of them, who is creating a thriving business as a woman and just doing it. She's not letting the fact that she's a woman hold her back. She's not letting it's not an excuse. It's not, I can't do this because I'm a woman. I think that very soon, from what I'm saying, we're going to be changing that statistic, and it's going to be the majority of businesses that last more than 5 years and are successful and actually making a profit are run by women, because for some reason we're doing something right.
Yeah. Well, I think there's like, I think that again, there are so many societal factors to consider, but regardless of those, there's just like, I don't have to fit in. Like, I'm very lucky. I'm also in medicine because there's a lot of women in my profession, especially in community health. But yeah, I mean, it's like, there's nobody in my workplace who's keeping me back. And I'm also serving women primarily. Not my audience is 95% women. And it's hard, like self-identified women. Right. So, yeah, it'll be really interesting. I mean, Rachel, speaking of that, like Rachel Rogers, I don't know if you follow her at all, but she's like one of my current business mentors, like from afar, because I'm part of her membership. She's not like my direct mentor. She's amazingly successful. And she's, yeah, I mean, that's her passion for sure, is to help more women, identified entrepreneurs to grow. And I think I'm really hopeful. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think that 2021 is going to be an incredible year, even more incredible than 2020. And I'm excited to see what this year brings for you. I'm really excited. Thanks. I really want to thank you for being with us today. Thanks. Is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with? Any thoughts? Do you have like a freebie or something that you have for anybody that's interested, or what, maybe your YouTube channel?
Yeah. So it's so tough because like clearly I love business. And I'm actually like informally kind of like business mentoring people, like other nurse practitioners who are starting their own businesses. So I can't help myself, but I also like need to be really careful about my time management and like be in honor with my team. I do a little bit of like paid business mentoring. But I don't like have a landing page for it at all. It's kind of like a back channel thing. But anyway, my YouTube channel is youtube.com/realworldnp. And my website is realworldnp.com. And I don't have any formal like business training offerings yet. But clearly I am obsessed. So I have to be careful about like shiny object syndrome of like trying to start, like you said, 2 businesses at once. So maybe at some point. So if somebody's listening to this in the future, maybe go to my website and kind of see if there's anything business there. I've actually done some business presentations in the past, but fortunately nothing formal to offer. But I think that'd be the main place to come check out. And like, I'm not I'm not affiliated with Rachel Rodgers at all, but like, if you are a woman entrepreneur or like a boundary pushing entrepreneur of any non-binary, female, male, I would definitely check out Rachel Rodgers. She's an amazing entrepreneurial coach. So that's
awesome. Awesome. And if there's a nurse practitioner out there that maybe is new, where should they go to get more information about your products?
Yeah, I would just go right to the website, realworldnp.com. There is, if you go to there's a shop on there that has the products, and there's also the guide, ultimate resource guide for the new NP. That's at realworldnp.com/guide. And so if anybody wants to get on the email list, I send out those weekly emails with the weekly videos on clinical topics. So I would definitely so appreciate anybody spreading the word, even if they're not a nurse practitioner themselves, but like letting everybody else know. That would be so cool, because I would just really want to help so many nurse practitioners, as many as possible, preferably.
Well, that's awesome. And that's why you're so successful, because you just want to help people. And that's what it's all about. Well, thank you so much, because I know today you have helped so many people that are on the fence about, is this possible? Is it exciting? And, your energy and your love for entrepreneurship is just contagious. So thank you so much for sharing it with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's so much fun. I love it.
It's been a true pleasure.
Thank you.
One of the things I like most about having a podcast is getting to meet so many amazing people like Liz. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as I've enjoyed recording it. As always, I would love it if you would leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast player. And until next week, adios from beautiful Porto Aventuras, Mexico.